Are you ready?
To find solutions.
Ready.
For new opportunity.
Ready.
To take charge of the future. St. Joseph's College in Brooklyn offers a safe, flexible, and affordable education so you can be ready for what's next. And we make it easy to transfer, so you can stay on course to complete your degree. Attend an upcoming virtual transfer and adult enrollment day to see how. Register at sjcny.edu/BK transfer events.
Are you ready?
St. Joseph's College.
Ready?
Set.
Joe's.
Save your most important documents, videos, and photos in the cloud. With a Microsoft 365 subscription, you get a full terabyte of secure OneDrive storage that you can access across all your devices. As part of your subscription, you get the added benefit of additional OneDrive personal vault storage. Using a second set of identity verification, this gives you an extra layer of protection for your most important and private files. Buy now at Microsoft365.com/memories.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Thank you for tuning into the Cigars with Mac podcast. I am your humble host, Cigars with Mac. Please remember, people, to follow, like, share, and download the podcast on your favorite podcasting platform, whether that be Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcast, etc., etc. These are probably the most popular ones. Stitcher, there's another one. Anyway, people, today our podcast will be titled, "Do We Need More StepDaddies?" That's right. Do we need more stepfathers, stepdaddies? That's a good question right there. Now, I'm not just talking about stepfathers for everyone. I'm talking about stepfathers mainly in the black community. But this can apply to anyone. Do we need more stepdaddies? Because in our community, we do have a lot of single mothers. We have a lot of single mothers. And the fact of the matter is, if some of you women don't get married, you're going to die alone. You're going to die alone. At the end of the day, do we need more stepdaddies? Now, I'm not going to go into whether men want to even be stepfathers. I'm not going to even go into that. That's not even important right now. Let's first get past whether we need more stepfathers, stepdaddies. I've never had a stepfather, so I really can't speak on it too much. You know, my parents were split up and divorced, but there were times where I look back at it now where having a stepfather would have been very useful in my life, especially if he was a positive male role model. Sorry about that. That's my ashtray. Especially if he was a positive male role model. Now, many people will probably say, especially men that are doing well for themselves, men that are financially successful, they're probably going to say, hell no, I'm not going to be a stepdaddy to nobody else's kid. But would that help out a young man, a young lady, if they had a stepfather in their life? Let's look at it. One of my most favorite athletes and entrepreneurs, Shaquille O'Neal. He had a stepfather, Sarge. Nickname was Sarge. Sarge is probably the reason why he's successful. In fact, I'm going to say Sarge is the reason why he's successful. He never gets the credit he deserves, but if it wasn't for Sarge, I don't think Shaquille O'Neal would be the man he is today. I really don't. I think having a positive male role model in a boy's life is instrumental in success. That's what I feel. That's what I know. I know that for a fact that if a young man has that influential man in his life, is usually the difference between life and death in most cases. I wonder how many professional athletes had stepfathers. Excuse me, let me plug this computer back up. Didn't know it's unplugged. Hold on right quick. Let me take a brief intermission. All right, folks, we're back. But back to what I was saying. I didn't know my computer was unplugged. I have a gaming computer. This sucker is fast and very efficient, but it also burns. The charge won't stay on long. This is a gaming computer. But anyway, I wonder how many athletes had stepfathers. That's my dog in the back, if y'all hear barking. I would keep rocking. I don't really care about her barking. She mad because she got to be in a crate right now. Anyway. Let me turn my mic down so it won't pick her up. Anyway, I feel like that society has told a lot of men not to be stepfathers. But the fact of the matter is if you've been married before or have children and you get into a relationship, there's a high chance you'll be a stepfather. Now, at the same token, I was telling a young lady the other day, I didn't say it in quite these words, but in a nutshell, a man can pretty much have 10 kids, 20 kids, and get a woman with 0 kids. Because most women have that motherly instinct. But in some ways, for women, it's easier for women to kind of be that stepmother role, stepmom role. For the most part, not all the time. It's easy for women to do that. So you really can't knock women when they become stepmothers. I seen a post today on Facebook where they were talking about a man with a lot of kids, and now, hold on. The post basically was saying, should a man marry a woman with a lot of kids? And many women were saying that women do it all the time, where they get with men with a lot of kids. And there's a reason why. There's a reason for that. Because again, most women have that motherly instinct. Most women are going to have that motherly instinct. They just are. So that's why it's easier when you see a mother or a woman step in to a relationship with a man who already has a child or has children, because women naturally have that maternal instinct. That's the reason why. But you see, when it comes down to a man, some men find it difficult when they don't have children to get with a woman with kids. Some men find that to be very difficult. But I do believe, in my humble opinion, that being a stepfather is necessary. I really believe that. I believe being a stepdad is necessary. I just do. I wish this damn dog would shut up. See, if I let her out, she gonna be in here messing with me while I'm doing this podcast. She gonna want me to rub on her and play with her and baby her up, but you know, I'm trying to do a podcast. But do we need more stepdaddies? I feel we do. We do. I don't even knock a man being a stepfather. The older I get, I look at life a little bit differently now. I don't look at life the way I used to look at it when I was younger. Because I'm older now and I see things from a different perspective. And I don't knock a man for being a stepfather. Because believe it or not, you could be the stepfather to the next president of the United States. You could be the stepfather to the next CEO of a Fortune 500 company. You could be the stepfather to the next general of the military, admiral of the Navy. So I do feel it's necessary. Now, I found an article with some helpful tips for those who are in a situation where they could be a stepfather. All right, let's get that article. All right. The title of this article is 5 Ways to Be a Great Stepdad. This article is by Suzanne Merrill. It says, being a stepdad is like walking into an emotional minefield. He tries to simultaneously recover from the wounds in his own past, building a new marriage with his wife, and settle into this new family situation with his wife's children and possibly children from his previous marriage. And all this takes place in the aftermath of your wife's ex-husband, who still seems to linger mystically, if not physically, in the shadows of this new household. It isn't surprising that a large percentage of abuse cases occur in step or mixed families, but there are those of you who are truly instruments of hope, healing to fatherless homes, and you deserve praise for your willingness to step in and be a father figure for those who have none. You have a tremendous challenge. As a stepfather, you're really more like a mentor than a father. You're a helper, a caretaker, a steward of sorts, who gives the children a needed perspective and becomes an important source of strength as they grow and mature. You don't actually have the responsibility that your wife does in raising them, though you can earn that responsibility over time. Well, on that note, I don't really agree with that, because if you're the stepfather, you're now the head of the house. Now, of course, especially if you are if you're a financial come up for the family, now, unless you're a noodleback man who has no spine, you're going to want to be the head of your household. And I do believe respect is earned, but as a man, disrespect won't be tolerated. So you got to ask yourself, when do you lay down boundaries? Well, first and foremost, you and your future spouse have to talk about these things up front. And in this article, you'll find some of that going on, some of these necessary steps. But that statement I don't necessarily agree with. Let's continue. You don't actually have the responsibility that your wife does in raising them, though you can earn that responsibility over time. But you do possess a potential to influence them that is equal to, though different from your wife's. Here are 5 ways you can ease the tension of being a stepfather. Number 1, keep encouraging the children's relationship with their biological father. Oh yeah. That makes a lot of sense right there. Why? Because the children need to know and understand that you're a stepfather. You're not their biological dad, and especially if you are in their life at a certain age, they have to know and understand that. So that would also mean that you and the biological father should have a good working relationship. You should. There should be a bit of cohesion. Of course, you guys ain't got to go out and play golf together, but there should be some harmony amongst you two. There must be a level of harmony amongst you two. And most men, believe it or not, we understand respect amongst each other. All right, let's move on. Number 1, keep encouraging the children's relationship with their biological father. What often happens in second or third marriages is that everyone in the household tries to forget the ex-husband completely. But no matter how hard you try, you can't forget him, and neither can the children. If you try to ignore his existence, trying to keep his bones in the closet, so to speak, you can be sure that sooner or later, probably during a confrontation, your children will not only drag those bones out, but will use them as weapons against you and your wife. Interesting. The better alternative is to be open and honest about him and your household. If he is still trying to be involved with his kids, encourage him in that, remembering that he is their father and that his children have a need to be reconciled to him and to feel at peace about their relationship to him. You may grow to have a lasting and rewarding relationship with your stepchildren, but setting yourself up as a new father and asking them to accept you as a replacement to their real father is only asking for turbulence in the future, if not right away. I like that. Pretty much, I interpret that as you cannot try to step in as their biological father. Your role as a stepdad, according to this article, pretty much is saying you are their mother's husband. And I feel that role as a stepdad, if properly fed, it will organically come. You will organically grow to love those children, and there will be a mutual respect. But remember, I've never been a stepfather before. And I'm going by an article. But again, remember, my opinion is we do need more stepfathers. Number 2, discuss discipline and exercise it with extreme caution. Perhaps the greatest point of tension for a new stepfather is knowing how and to what extent you should be involved in the discipline of your children. Here are 2 examples that illustrate the right and wrong ways of handling the situation. Let's read this. Janice married Reggie because they needed each other. Both of them had problems from their previous marriages, and they decided they could help each other heal. Reggie believed in strict discipline, and so naturally he began to take control with Janice's kids, and Janice felt it was right to yield to him. But Reggie was bringing expectations upon her children for which she had never prepared them, and instead of protecting her children from his heavy-handed discipline and criticism, she gave him full authority over them. He had taken it upon himself to impress upon them his own views regarding their music and many of their other habits or things that she had never really worried about in the past. As you would expect, the children didn't take to Reggie very well. The family entered counseling not long after he moved in. One son became a delinquent, and one of Janice's daughters underwent psychiatric care and was eventually placed in another home. This family demonstrates the major and lasting fallout when a stepfather dives in or is pushed into a role as a disciplinarian with his new children. I can see their point of view right there. Maybe he should have sat back and saw the flow of things. But number 1, I kind of feel like their reasoning for getting together was a bit too dependent on one another. They were too dependent on one another. Now, in some cases, a heavy hand in discipline is necessary because some kids have never had it. But you got to wonder, was their father still even in their lives? And was he active, and was he a productive father? Because the thing a lot of kids don't understand is, just because mom and dad divorced doesn't mean that the parents divorced from you. It's just they left each other. They divorced from each other. So, and of course, this is just a story, a parable. The next story says, Norm and Trudy are a far different story. After Trudy's divorce, she and her kids were utterly disillusioned. When Norm, who had never been married, met Trudy and they began to think about marriage, their plans included her 4 children. They discussed his role in discipline. He would be there to back up Trudy and support her decisions. And if he had any questions or disagreements, he would bring them up in private away from the kids. This kind of sensitivity on Norm's part not only won him a loving wife, but her kids viewed him as an answer to their prayers. His devotion to Trudy has strengthened their marriage and her children's sense of security in the household. Men like Norm should give us all hope that there are men who can provide children with the male leaders that they need. Now, I like that because, it's essentially still her children. And he was there for support. And being that he had never been married before, it made sense for him to play that role. And I understand that. I can see that. And like they said, he was an answer to their prayer. So I truly agree with that story. And essentially, it seems as though he actually earned their respect. Number 3. Schedule regular times away from the kids as a couple. Even more than in first marriages, it is vital that you and your wife spend time alone, strengthening and revitalizing your marriage. Even more than in first marriages, it is vital that you and your wife spend time alone, strengthening and revitalizing your marriage. That is so true. I look at some married couples, man, and they're so wrapped up with grandchildren and spoiling the grandchildren and belling their kids out. And I speak of as the kids have grown and they become empty nesters. Nothing upsets me more than to see grandparents constantly with their grandchildren because the parents don't want to be around them or they want to always get a break. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think the grandparents should watch their kids at their discretion. What y'all think about that? What do y'all think about that? And sometimes we as married couples, we get so caught up with the kids, we forget about each other. Article says, besides the benefits you will see as a couple, your stepchildren will take great comfort in your commitment to one another. Why? Because you're showing a united front. They've already seen one marriage end, and some children even blame themselves for it. Their outlook on life each day will be greatly improved if they sense love and commitment between their mother and stepfather at home. These outings can also serve as times of reassessment and planning as a parenting team. If all wives are ambassadors of sorts between fathers and their children, they are even more essential where stepfathers are concerned. Your wife is really the key person in the situation. She knows you well and she knows her kids. She also knows the children's father, his influence, and his strengths and weaknesses. This can be a time of real enlightenment in which you ask for feedback regarding your relationships with the children, compare notes, and gain valuable insights into the kids' behavior. So basically, it's a good way for you guys to plan, strategize, talk about the kids, talk about what ways you can approach certain things. I agree with that. Like I said, I've never been a stepfather. Number 4 says, practice acceptance. I like to read these first before I start giving my opinion. I don't want to sound like a jackass. It's good to realize from the beginning that this new family will take some time to get used to. It will take time for them as well. There will be times when you feel like an outsider. That's why it's important for you to take the initiative and show the children unconditional acceptance. Be flexible when it comes to mannerisms and personal habits, and be a healthy model of someone who cheerfully adapts to your new family members as they are, faults and all. Your openness and willingness to deal with their indiscretionaries and unique family atmosphere will be contagious and will encourage them to accept you more easily. I can see that. Why? Because you're not coming in trying to change things. For instance, if you see a kid, if your new wife has an overweight kid and you think he should be playing football, but this kid doesn't have an athletic bone in his body, but he sees you work out a lot, I think you could have a better influence on him that way, as opposed to forcing him to play sports, to lose weight, or get in shape, or just stop being a couch potato. Especially if the kid is younger. Now, when the kid's older, like a teenager, you got to approach that a little differently. You got to approach that differently. And I'm reading this article because these are giving you real, rational reasons why. Okay, I'm sorry. They're giving you rational, thought-provoking things to think about if you're deciding to become a stepfather. Number 5, don't force her children to call you dad. In marrying you, your wife has brought her children some new and not entirely welcome obligations and commitments that they have not chosen to make. Forcing them to accept you on such terms will only cause resentment, especially with older kids. Instead, allow children to define their own comfort zones as they relate to you. Your desire for a quick and smooth transition is natural, but it will be best served by patience as you earn the respect and love of your wife's children in their time. I see that point of view. I know me personally, if I was a stepdad, I would feel kind of weird another man's children calling me dad, especially if he's active in their life. Now, if they didn't know their father, that would be one thing. That would be one thing. And let's be honest, man. A lot of you guys, if you see a fine ass woman like the thumbnail I have on the podcast, and she's telling you, hey, you want to be with me, you gotta be stepdaddy, y'all gonna jump right on it. Let's not even lie about it. If Beyonce and Jay-Z divorced right now, and I was a divorced man, I damn sure would be a stepfather for Beyonce's babies. Now, we all know Jay-Z is probably an active father, but you know, you get what I'm saying. You get what I'm saying, people. So in many cases, I do feel a stepfather is necessary, especially with these single moms. I do. But you got to be the right kind of man, and you got to understand what you're getting yourself into. You got to look past that big ass, those nice pretty thighs, them big bosoms. Man, you got to look past that, because you got to remember, once all that wears off, you got to deal with those children. And you got to really deal with them if they don't have a father in their life. You got to really deal with them then. And I've seen some amazing families, blended families. I remember when I was a kid, what was that show called? The Brady Bunch. Of course, that was just television, but they gave us a depiction of what it would be like to have a blended family. It's not easy, people. And you got to understand that when you get in that situation. And ladies out there, my single ladies out there, those of you that listen to the podcast, please take heed to this podcast, the articles I read to you. Because it's apparent the woman that wrote that article, she must have been married 2 or 3 times, and she has experience in that area. And I commend any man that's a stepfather. It's not easy. I commend any woman that's a stepmother. I commend you, because that's not easy. It's just not easy, people. That's hard. That's a hard thing to do, man. To take on another responsibility or responsibilities. I don't know if I could do that. I'm not going to lie to you. But I know to a degree it's necessary, especially in the black community. I know it's necessary because a lot of these children need fathers. Even a kid that's older that never had a dad in their life, they need that. They need that structure. Because I know what the article was saying about certain things, but at the same token, you still have to lay down structure in the household. And I don't knock a man for having to lay the law down, because what this article is not telling you is sometimes you can try all those steps and it don't work. Especially if you have a rebellious kid, rebellious teenager, a kid acting up in school. Excuse me. I've seen some of these single mothers out here with these kids, man, and I'm like, where is this boy's father at? It's obvious his father's not in his life. Because if his dad was in his life, all she got to say is, I'm going to call your daddy. And his ass would tighten up. Her little ass would tighten up. Because little girls need their fathers too. They do. I don't for 1 minute think that men need their fathers more. I think it's a balance. Children need their dads. They just do. So I would encourage anyone who is looking to become a step parent to really communicate with your future spouse and just sit down and talk about everything. And like the article said, the do's, the don'ts, how we're going to handle disciplinary problems, because you have a big feat ahead of you. In some cases, it may be best to especially if they have a great father, let those children go live with their dad. Sometimes that's best. It keeps down the confusion. It keeps down the turmoil in the household. That's my opinion. And like I said, I'm speaking from a standpoint of someone who's never had a stepfather, and I've never been a stepfather. But I'm not against that. I'm not. I'm not against that. Because in the black community, we need more stepfathers, unfortunately. And I say that because, again, sometimes all these kids need is a positive male role model in their life. And kind of like the article said, I look at the stepdad as somewhat of a mentor. He's just there to kind of give you that advice to help you make those decisions in life. That's how I always view it, a successful step-parent relationship. That's just me, though. Like I said before, I like to go back to my boy Shaquille O'Neal, man. Shaq credits a lot of his success to Sarge. Oh, yeah. He loves that man. He loved that man. He loved old Sarge to the day he died. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. A lot of times online, on the internet, especially on YouTube, a lot of guys tell these dudes don't be marrying single moms and shit. But behind the scenes, a lot of these dudes are marrying single moms. Believe that. Believe that. Because some of these stepfathers provide a lot of structure to these kids. They provide a lot of guidance. And that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing at all. That's a good thing. I got a friend of mine. He's a stepfather. His boys turned out pretty damn good. He talks about them a lot. He calls them his boys. And ain't nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. So guys, I think I've talked about this as much as I can. I don't want to keep repeating myself because that's very annoying. And this damn dog of mine started back to barking again. She is a piece of work. So with that being said, I want to thank you for tuning in to the Cigars and Mac podcast. Please don't forget to download, like, follow, and share on your favorite podcasting platform. And we out. Also, y'all, if you have any show topics you'd like for me to talk about, email me at info@cigarswithmacpod.com. If you'd like to be featured on the podcast, hit me up at info@cigarswithmacpod.com or on my Instagram, Cigars with Mac, or my other Instagram, Cigars with Mac Pod. Forgot to mention that I have 2 IGs, Twitter, Cigars with Mac. If you want to be on the show, if you got any podcast topics, I don't mind people sending them to me and we can chop it up. You dig? So that's it. I want to throw that in there. I like this beat, man. It's pretty funky. Hope y'all like it too. And again, like I said before, don't forget to download, like, follow, and share on your favorite podcasting platform. iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. I'm on Stitcher. And I'm on every podcasting platform you can think of. I'm out.
Support for this podcast comes from Magic: The Gathering Arena. You know the name. Now play the original strategy card game for free on your Mac or PC. MTG Arena delivers everything you love about Magic and more with an immersive digital experience full of explosive action and rewarding challenges. Collect powerful cards with 4 new sets every year. Jump into a diverse lineup of game modes like Brawl and Historic, or challenge your friends to find out who is the true deck-building master. New to Magic? No problem. MTG Arena gives you the tools to become the next Magic Pro. Learn the basics at your own pace and unlock 15 decks just by playing. Download Magic: The Gathering Arena for free today. Available on the Epic Game Store.
Save your most important documents, videos, and photos in the cloud. With a Microsoft 365 subscription, you get a full terabyte of secure OneDrive storage that you can access across all your devices. As part of your subscription, you get the added benefit of additional OneDrive Personal Vault storage. Using a second set of identity verification, this gives you an extra layer of protection for your most important and private files. Buy now at Microsoft365.com/memories.